everybody. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Hey, before I forget, I want to get this out there. If you want to call in and talk to us tonight, you can call in and talk. You can call in on 270-945-3418. We will put you on the air with us, and allow you to be part of the conversation. I mean, the whole point of this show is to have a conversation. And so tonight it's just Steve and I, but you know what? It could be Steve, myself, and you out there if
That's
you want
right.
to come on.
So I got some interesting news to put out. Next week we will have live Stephen Meredith on our show. He will be here to talk about the upcoming campaign, the closeout of the session as well. And I mean, obviously, a lot of things didn't get moved through the Senate before they closed the session. So
they had over 1,200 bills.
Yeah.
And they had 30 or 60 days to do it and 60 working days. They had to get done by April 15th.
There's a lot of emphasis on the budget, though.
And there's so much, and this is a budget year, so the budget's going to take up about half of that time.
It took more, though, because they're going into like over $130 billion in spending.
Yeah.
From 48. So it's a lot of money.
Well, I mean, we got into, we had a rainy day fund, what they call it up there. And as I think Steve and Nancy.
It's actually a reserve fund.
Yeah, it is. It's a reserve fund. They call it a rainy day fund. Reserve fund, rainy day fund. What a rainy day is basically a reserve for a rainy day, right?
Yep.
And so basically what that is that, they have money set aside that will allow Kentucky, the government of Kentucky, to run. I think it was at 45 days.
48 days and
48 days, and it's going to be 60 days without having to take any funds from the federal government.
That's
so
right.
If the federal government stops putting out, any of the monies that they're supposed to contribute to the states for whatever reason, Kentucky can continue to operate for 60 days and into the future, and while the United States government works out any issues and things they have.
So I'm in the works, hoping to find out. Also, that's coming up is I've talked to Stephen Meredith. Stephen Meredith is willing to debate his opponent in the primary. I'm just looking to lock in a date and a location. I'd be curious out there how many people would be interested in watching the two candidates for the primary debate, especially before we get to the general election and seeing that. But
I mean, I know we want to put as many. I know when we put together the debate like that, we want to make sure that we have room for an audience to actually come in the room.
Yep.
I'm going
to work on that.
But we're going to have an audience, and then also we'll have the ability to have it out in over the air or over the internet with the podcast. So that's going to be an awesome thing, and it's a little new for you and I, and I think it's going to be a good thing. It's going to be that's part of the reason that we're here, is to be able to inform people and help teach people about the processes and things. So
absolutely. So, and I've asked Mark, since he's the chair of the Meade County Republican Party, to actually be the moderator, and you have kindly accepted.
I have accepted. I would say somewhat reluctantly, but I understand. Only because I try to stay neutral, and I don't want to seem like any question I might ask. If I ask a question, when I ask a question as a moderator, it's a sincere question. I'm not trying to lead or anything like that. So that is the only reason that I wouldn't, I might have said no, but I didn't say no. I think that's good. We're going to take some questions. I'm going to be reaching out to folks around town, around Meade County.
Yep.
And
or you can leave a question on the Meade Truth.
That's right.
Or you could message us at the messenger for a question that you think that Mark should ask both candidates that are running for the primary.
And we'll take those. Now, the thing is that we'll need to put a deadline on that. So we're looking at right now about 3 weeks away before we're going to have this debate.
Going to try to do it the week before the actual election, so that there's time they can campaign, and then it culminate with this debate, and then you go to the voter polls and just go from there.
And the primary is May 21st. So you're looking at, if you look at the fact that today is the 24th of April, and we have, so that gives us about
2.5 weeks.
It's basically 3 weeks. If we did it on a Wednesday, the 15th, that means we need to have questions into us by April 8th or May 8th, rather. May 8th. And so that way it gives us time to consolidate questions that are alike, and we'll try to put them out. We are not. We are not looking to share these with the
candidates. Will not
prior.
have any prior preview to the questions.
The most that we might give a candidate is, an overall theme or what have you.
Right.
But we will not give them the questions prior to the debate. So.
I think it'll be good. More to follow on it. We'll keep you posted, but
I think it's going to be fun, and it's going to be a learning experience. So
we're just waiting on feedback from one of the candidates. Well, it's Tom. I'm just waiting for his schedule to see if we can get the date right and work this out between both Steven's schedule and Tom's.
So right now we're preliminary looking at May 15th for the debate.
It'd be the Wednesday or the
That's the
Thursday.
Wednesday prior to the election.
So that may be our
if it
best
needs to be
bet.
Thursday, we'll work that out.
Yeah.
Obviously, our schedule we'll have to make sure our schedule works for that. So
that's Tom calling in right now. Hold on. a
oh,
second.
is he
Let's see what
calling
he
on
says.
yours? And
All right.
he didn't call
All right,
into
Tom,
the main line.
We're live on a podcast, so what's the answer? Yeah, the answer is yes. You heard it live. So we're working on the date right now. Tom has dialed me to call in. He didn't call in on the dial-in line, but I just relaying between the phone and you, Tom, with the podcast. So Tom's a yes. We got Steven is a yes. Now it's all up to location and time. So Tom, I tell you, look for that Wednesday, Thursday, the week before, and we'll see if we can't get you on. If you want to dial back in on the show, you or Steven, if you're watching, 270-945-3418. All right. Sounds great. Thank you, Tom. We'll look forward to seeing you back on the show and when we go into debate. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom.
Bye-bye.
All right. Well, good. That's that settles that. So
Live breaking news. That's very good. So I actually put this on live tonight on the Messenger site along with the Meade Truth tonight because I think this is good for Meade County to see who's running and
while Meade Truth is the Republican Party's
by the way
podcast, it is paid for and is paid for by the Meade County Republican Party. I represent the Meade County Republican Party, and they're they've been kind enough to pay for this for quite some time.
The Republican Party.
The Republican Party has, and we pay the Messenger Studios for the airtime and the production. So.
Yeah. Democratic Party has the same opportunity. Just letting everybody know on that. So there's studio space and time available for anybody interested in doing podcasts to get their word out and all that stuff. But see our advertising team to work that out. Yep. Back to this show. Interestingly enough, I think there's a lot of things that are coming up. I think we had a great weekend. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about that from my perspective. So I was voted as a delegate. The Republican Party and Mark as well. The Republican Party put an announcement in the paper. They advertised for all Republicans. If you are a registered Republican, this is the process for the Republican Party. And that was to vote in accordance with the Republican Party rules for the state of Kentucky and each of its districts and or counties.
Based on congressional districts.
Congressional districts.
We are in Congressional District 2 of Kentucky.
That's right. So, and thank you for that, Mark. And what happened was, and I'm going to tell you, this is where you're going to start getting a lot of attention from me as the owner of the Messenger and the Meade Media Group. We have got to show up and represent as voters because what happened there was all the people that had raised their hand said, I'd like to be a delegate. Well, they all showed up. But nobody else in the registered
very few people outside showed up that weren't a delegate or an alternate.
But I'm not talking about this weekend. I'm talking about for our county.
All right. So
can
we take a step back? Let me explain the process if you don't mind.
Well, let me talk about it from this, and I'll share the process.
Okay.
But what happened was there was a very select few that showed up. And it was open to if you're a registered voter, you were able to come and participate in this process. And your voice would have mattered when we held the local venue to select who it was that was going to go forward this last weekend to actually sit in a seat as a delegate, get verified as a delegate, and then represent in the 2nd district to vote as a delegate on behalf of all of the people that are registered voters for the Republican Party. Now, I'll let it go back over to Mark because Mark can explain why this process exists and then how it moves forward from the 2nd District to the state level, which we all go and participate on the 18th of May.
So we have what's called, we have the Meade County Republican Party is a representative body of Meade County Republican voters that are, and there are, to be on the county committee, there are 19 precincts in the county, and each county can have a captain, a co-captain, and a youth captain. Now that if we had a full allotment, we would have that would be 50. That would be 57 people who are on the committee. That's the county committee. So that happens every 4 years. Every 4 years, on the year following the presidential election, the county party is completely taken down to nothing, and each precinct then votes in their 3 officers, and then they meet as a county committee and they vote on who your chair of the county party, the vice chair. I'm sorry, the chair, the vice chair, the treasurer, the secretary, and your youth chair for the entire county. So 5 officers of the county. So what happens is then when you get to the presidential election, usually about 3 years later, we have to meet as a mass meeting in Meade County. First thing we do is we as a county committee, right, those 57 plus 5 officers, and then Meade County we also vote as a committee to have our elected officials as de facto members, voting members of our committee. So if they're fortunately, most of our elected officials in Meade County are also captains or co-captains of their precincts, but there's a few cases where they're not, and those folks are also invited in to be part of the committee. So we all meet. Everyone has an opportunity to put in names or what have you, and our responsibility is to create a slate of delegates and alternates, so that we have Meade County for our size, and it's based on the total number of voters that came out in the previous election. And so there's a mathematical process to get that. Meade County ends up with 6 total. So we have 6 delegates and 6 alternates that we put together a slate. Now that slate can be the same slate that will go to both the district and the state, or you could have 2 separate ones. But in either case, you're going to send 6 people to at least a district. So that's what we got together for back in March. I think it was March 18th or 16th. I can't remember, whatever that Saturday was there. And on that day, we got together and did a mass meeting. We only had a few more members show up to vote on that. Now, all we're doing at that point is we're ratifying, at that meeting, we will ratify the county committee's slate and the slate of delegates, and we will also ratify the slate of committee members.
Right.
So there's 4 committees. I'm neglecting to say, but there's 4 committees that you'll put members on that will help select different things at the convention. So there's nominations committee. Mm-hmm. There's permanent organization of the convention or the mass meeting. So the 2nd District permanent organization. That's who's going there. That's who those people get together and say, we're going to suggest that this person is the chair of this convention, the permanent chair, so that they will be the ones that will gavel in and gavel out, and that'll be the official. And then there's another one for nominations, and those nominations will be for different things like who's going to be on committees at the state level, who's going to be our elector from the 2nd District for the presidential. Mm-hmm. So they're the ones that will go to. They will actually be the one that goes and actually places our vote for hopefully Donald Trump in November
or at the national convention.
As the at the not the national convention, but at the electoral college.
Yes.
Right. So that would be the Republican. So if a Republican wins, the Republican elector will go from the 2nd district. And then, like I said, the nominations committee, there's a couple of different things that we're going to do on the state level, basically the same as we have at the.
And what was the last committee?
And the last committee is just our delegates, people who will represent the 2nd district.
Yeah.
So each district can take 3. Each district gets 3 delegates themselves, and then so there's 6. There's 6 districts in Kentucky, so 18 of our delegates will be decided by the districts themselves, and then at the state level they will pick an additional like 25 or something like that at large that can go. But each of the
so it's
districts get one.
Essentially
get to pick 3.
It's a reverse pyramid, essentially.
Yeah.
Because the final, selectees that go forward to represent as delegates at the national convention or as electors, represent the entire vote of the state of Kentucky. And let me tell you, so this is where it gets really interesting. So we show up, and based off of participation in each county, really tells you about how much interaction goes on between neighboring counties and their county parties, because those relationships politically matter for those involved. And if you have the same people showing up all the time, you get the same old. But if you get new blood that comes in and starts bringing in new blood, then the same old gets kind of roosted out, is what I experienced from this weekend. And I'll give you an example. Is I've never sat in a meeting where, they always say Robert's rules, but then they say all in favor say aye, and you hear loud, thunderous aye. But then when they say all those opposed, and you get the same loud and thunderous from the nays. And so at that point, you end up in a standing vote, and then the ayes have it or the nays have it based off of the count, unless the rules say that a 2/3 majority will win, because you could be 50-50 in the room, and the 2/3 does not overwin, and so then the ayes then have it. Or they have to go back to committee to evaluate the output of whatever that vote was cast for from a motion that was placed on the floor under the Roberts rules. So, but the interesting thing is that you've got to participate. Because if you don't participate, I know that there's many of you out there that would probably watch this and say, I'm confused. You've just confused me. I can just tell you that if you sit at home and all you think about is they need to fix this and they need to fix that, well, you are the they. And only way it gets fixed is through that actual participation through these types of events, so that the voices can actually get heard through all of these people that are currently sitting in these seats or representing. And squeaky mouse gets the cheese. Honestly, that's what I just witnessed, and that the process actually works. Now, I'm not very familiar with the Democratic process, because they have the Democratic Party's process, because they've got super delegates and all that other stuff. They don't go through as much of a Democratic process as what I witnessed this weekend with our delegation, but it is very much a delegation, and there's no super majority. It is either you are with, and for those that are firmly affixed on issues, and many other are like-minded, it seems like that the process works. But if you're at home and you're not participating, and it's not just this type of event, whether it's with your party or a party affiliation, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, you should go and visit your party when they have meetings and host meetings, and get involved and find out who's who on each side and representing you, because there is confusion between what national issues are and what local issues are, and what each party is doing locally to represent the county as a whole. Because ultimately there are no divisions once people are elected. It's they are representing all of the body of the people, not just a select few. And in saying that, You've just got to get involved. And this voting year in the primary and in the presidential, of course, everybody will come out of the woodworks to vote in a presidential election, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. It seems like you get the highest participation, but don't wait for a presidential election.
Yeah,
the people who spend the money and run the state government, which is fed by federal funds and state funds and taxpayer dollars, are in your local elections. And a lot of them were involved in these party politics that are held at the county, whether you're Democrat or Republican. And if you don't participate or you don't go to these meetings, nobody's an outcast at these meetings. If you're a registered Democrat, you go to a Democratic Party meeting. I think you could be a registered Republican, go to a Democratic Party meeting. You could be a registered Democrat and come to a party meeting if they have an open session. But you can't participate in business unless you're a registered voter and or a committee member.
Right.
But you should find out more locally, and that's what I encourage you to do.
Yeah, it just we have our meetings every third Monday of the month. The Republican Party has a meeting. We're out at 2714 Brandenburg Road. It's out in Brandenburg
station
at the
old train master's house.
The station master's the train station master's house out there in Brandenburg Station. It's if you're going out of Brandenburg, it's the driveway on the left just past Weldon Road. So if you're at Weldon Road, you're going to go ahead and get over there and turn left at that White House. Right before you get to the railroad bridge. So, the point is, though, that Steve and I are trying to make is we want people to come and participate. When we run a meeting at the Meade County Republican Party, we want people to come and talk and discuss ideas. We want to keep it, obviously, be under control.
Yeah.
But we have an open and public session every meeting that allows people to come and make announcements, or if they have ideas about things. And we will, we want to hear even people that we don't that maybe not agree with us or we don't agree with them. We still think it's worth letting them be heard.
100% value added to hear opposition to any issue.
Yeah. So if you disagree with
constructive, not destructive.
Well, yeah, we need to make sure that it needs to be done in the right light. We don't want you coming in and just tearing other people down. Just to be tearing them down. But if you're coming in and you're putting some facts together that says, hey, this person, this person is doing this, and this, and I disagree with them being being our candidate or something like that, that's okay too. But do it respectfully.
Yep.
And
don't make it a Columbia University Antifa / anti-Israeli event that's obviously making the national news and the headlines.
And that's terrible. I mean, it's like. I mean, I don't think these kids that are going there even have a clue what they're saying. They can't. I mean, there may be a handful of them that do.
Well, there was an example on 3 different networks this morning that talked about they'd asked a student, and unbiased, multiple networks, CNN. I think I watched it on Fox, and I watched it on MSNBC this morning, and they asked the student, they were saying from the river to the sea, and they were like, do you even know what river and what sea? And then they were all like blank stares. You know what I mean? And that's been fluid throughout many questions simple to that. I'm not going to elaborate on each different network's questions.
That's because they're being taught in school
100%.
to be activists, and they don't even know what they're being activists for. In my opinion, activists don't make good leaders, first of all, because activists have a very narrow view of things they want to get done. There's very specific things. And when you're asking for an activist to become a leader of, like a senator or a representative or a governor or what have you, once they get past those few things that make them that they care about, now they rarely know how to lead beyond that.
That's right.
And so it's when you're an activist, it's usually you want to affect leadership and put effective leadership in place that will listen to you.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, allow them to go and allow them go and lead and be I think that's an important piece that people don't realize, that it's when you're angry, about something, that means you're an activist. You've been activated.
Yeah.
Right. And then, but when it comes down to leadership, now that doesn't mean that non-activist leaders are all good, because there's bad leaders out there that don't know how to lead.
Numerous examples.
They have, there's tons out there.
Historically, numerous examples.
And so, yes, activists are not wrong all the time about the leadership. It's just that they don't typically make good leaders. And so, but there's a lot of people out there that will try to activate people to get themselves elected because they have very specific things that they want to get done. But then, and they're willing to, and some of them are willing to burn down the house to get rid of the mouse. Right.
Yeah.
And that's the way I look at it. So you got to be careful. Don't burn down the house to get rid of one mouse. Let's work through it, build the right mousetrap. Let's get it done and work together to make sure it happens. But don't just, the old adage, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Right. So.
That's funny. Hey, okay, so transitioning from the process to select delegates and then get out and vote. Just next week, I just want to make sure we emphasize that Stephen Meredith will be live on the show in person. So we'll have lots of questions for that. Please tune in, ask questions, send us questions, and we'll ask him before we have the show or during the show.
And really and truly, we're not even really transitioning, because the whole point of this entire show that we've had so far is we need you to participate. That's participate and in the committee, in the party, and it's also participate. Number one, participate by going and voting. It's going to be. I mean, if you want to, there's a lot of people who want to see Donald Trump as our presidential as our Republican candidate for president.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who say, well, he's already, so it's no sense in going. But you still can show you can still show people that how important it is to you by going and voting for Donald Trump and the down ticket during this primary election. It's important to make your voice heard. It's not just important for me to hear your voice, but it's important for you to put your voice out there, to let people know that you care about these things. Because because as I said earlier, if you don't show up and vote in November, we lose our ability to be represented because we don't have enough people show up at the polls. So, when it comes to selecting delegates and things, you need to. If we get more Republicans to show up and come vote for our candidates, then we will get better representation when it comes to selection of delegates and things moving forward. So if we want to, like we had 6 this last time, if we would have just had another 3,000 votes, that's 2 more delegates that would have been added onto our district, and would have been a much better showing for us at these other things. So we need your help. We need your help to come and to vote, just so that we can make sure that Meade County is always represented represented to our fullest at these meetings.
So obviously in national news, the stuff with Israel and all that other stuff, and Iran attacking, and I don't really care to get into all that stuff, but that's a great example of how not to protest, because that's not really protesting. Yeah. It's more like activism. And honestly, frankly, it's kind of disturbing because it's almost
it puts a lot of Republicans. It kind of gives us there's a lot of Republicans who are torn about this whole thing, because they want to represent, they want to put money and give money to support Israel.
Yeah.
But they get held hostage on Ukraine in order to get that.
Yeah, I saw that.
And it's like, well, they want to. That's another case where they want to burn down the house.
So Brett Guthrie I talked to Brett this week at an event. Baptist Health opened a new place in Radcliffe, supported by a Bound Credit Union, which is super amazing for all of our veterans and our citizens in both Radcliffe and the Meade County community, but especially for our TRICARE folks that are either civilians of military working at Fort Knox and surrounding. But that facility opened up. Brett Guthrie was one of the key individuals that helped with that, along with the mayor of Radcliffe, J.J. Duvall. And Baptist Health Hospital. Tremendous showing there, but I talked to Brett at that event, and he wants to come back on our show to actually talk this topic in depth. So, Mark, you and I have to get him wrangled in to come in on the show. He'll probably be a dial-in, but I think it would be great to get that insider information, and not from some network. You get it right here from the Meade Truth and the Messenger Studios to actually get on the ground voice of your representative who is there in Congress and listening to these fights that you won't get otherwise because of I've got a time crunch or I've got to put commercials up and stuff.
I mean, that's a great opportunity for us to get that. And I've really always appreciated that Brett will come and talk to us.
100%.
Before we even had the podcast, Brett would come in town and we would get a group of Republicans and stuff just to talk to Brett, just anybody, and he wants to talk to just normal folk. He doesn't want like just the leaders of the party and things. He wants us to, put an invitation out and
and to our Democratic watchers, watchers, you are more than welcome to chime in when he comes on. I mean, he is our elected official. I think that anybody that's elected official that we have on is newsworthy, and both parties should be able to communicate directly with them because they are the chosen ones that represent us on the floor in Congress. And so, welcome all of those opportunities, especially when we're broadcasting on the Messenger for a newsworthy opportunity. So, I think it's going to be awesome to get him on and find out, the breakdown of that in the near future, especially before we get to the primary, because I think that issue will resonate since they just recently got that. And I haven't checked yet to see if he signed that today. The president signed that today or not, but. So our next party meeting is going to be when and where?
So the next party meeting, it will be on so we just had the April meeting. So that was on the 15th, and that's the earliest it can be in a month, in any month, because it just so happened the first Monday was the first. So that means 2 weeks later you're having the third Monday. So next month will be it'll be the day before the election. So the election is the primary election is the 21st. We will have our regular meeting on the 20th, and it will be at, like I said, 2714 Brandenburg Road in Brandenburg. And we would love to have as many folks out. If it becomes standing room only, we'll move it outside if we have to. And then it would be great for us to have to figure out a new place to meet if we can get enough people. We typically have somewhere between 20 and 30 on a given month. Sometimes it gets a little bit more, sometimes it gets a little less, but typically it's around 20 to 30 people. And that's fairly comfortable inside the building. But we would love to be able to, have to move it outside and
bring a lawn chair, bring your folding chair, folding chair.
Yeah. So we would love to have to do that and, circle around the cars or something or whatever. But, it's at 7:00 on the third Monday of each month. And we would love to have any of you registered Republicans to come out and talk to us and help us understand what we can do better in the community, how we can better represent you, and then we'll also talk a little bit because next year, once the presidential election is all over, and we have our Republican nominee Donald Trump as president, which I think that's what's going to happen. I think we're going to get a curveball
from the Democratic Party.
Well, they're going to try to throw curveballs, but I don't think nothing's going to stick unless it's just.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean,
it's going to be an interesting election
year. They're throwing
year.
Everything at Donald Trump right now that they can. Now it's like, they're going to fine him because of the gag order, and it's like, well, you can't talk about, there's nothing that he said in those.
He just said he couldn't campaign.
Yeah, he just said,
him up.
Yeah, they're just, but they're trying to do everything they can to try to take every dollar out of his pocket, every minute off of the campaign trail, and it's a shame that and this is the stuff that they're saying that Donald Trump was trying to do when he was talking to Ukraine about what the heck Joe Biden was talking about when he said he got the guy fired.
Yeah.
I mean, Joe Biden said I got him fired, and because he was going after my son, my son's business.
Yeah.
And and by the way, the reason his son's in that business is because, they wanted him to go after they wanted to get favor from on things like Ukraine and such. So anyhow,
American public's not stupid.
That's absolutely true. I mean, that's exactly right. The American public knows what's going on. They see it, and they don't need to, and you're going to see it. They're going to see that vote. I mean, right now, the election, if you went through and looked at the different polls and things right now, he is leading. He's leading by 4 points in Wisconsin. He's leading by 2 points in Michigan. There was a weird poll that came out.
Now, they said it was tied in Michigan today.
There was one but in the average, he's still got like a little 2 or 3 point lead. 4 points in Wisconsin. It's actually closer in Minnesota now. But there was a really weird poll that came out in Pennsylvania. Like there's been no indication that Joe Biden has won any poll in Pennsylvania in 6, 7, 8 months. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden he had 10 points. He had a 10-point lead in Pennsylvania. Nobody's buying that one. Well, that's an outlier of outliers. When you go from being down 3 or 4 points to being up 10, that's a significant jump. And I also saw something interesting yesterday that did you know in Pennsylvania that the Republicans have narrowed the voter registration to half of the lead that the Democrats had. So the Democrats at one point, I think, had 890 some thousand.
They have the same problem in Pennsylvania, though, that we do in Kentucky.
That we did have.
I got it, but it's still the same problem. If you don't show up, you can have all the registration you want to, but if the voters don't show up, the cities will win hands down because their voter turnout is much higher than the rural areas turnout in sheer numbers. And if you don't full-fledged bring your whole crew of everybody that's on that registration list, the cities will win out every time.
Vote. I mean, that's we believe that.
Well, we've got that math problem that proves that if every registered voter in each of the counties that was a Republican showed up, you would have hands down not only sent a message to these large cities that know they continuously win over and over again, you would have actually just shut down any of those cities ever again from being able to declare their Democratic rule over them. And the same math problem could apply if the Democrats did the same thing in a rural area. But nobody's showing up to vote because they don't believe that their vote works. And I can tell you from the messenger standpoint, I am going to be I don't care which party you're in, independent, libertarian, Republican, whatever, or Democratic Party, go and vote. Make it known. Yeah. I would love for Meade County to have 100% of it'll never happen. But if 100% of the voters showed up, it would send a clear message about how much we care about what happens.
Come November, you'll probably see close to 50% or more voters go to the polls. Yeah. But the primary is going to be closer to 20%, right? Yeah. And so, and that's just it baffles me. Mm-hmm. But I don't know why we're doing all that.
No, you're good. Keep going.
Anyhow, so I think it's our cue.
No, you're getting there. Go.
It baffles me that we're not getting the people out to the polls. It baffles me that they don't care enough about it. But it's like, it tears their heart when they don't get the right. Yeah. When they don't think they got the right guy. And it's like, but if you had more people who would care about it up front, to go, go find the right guy. Yeah. I mean, when we were looking for a candidate for judge executive, and we found Troy Koch, and he wasn't convinced right away to
no,
run.
He took his time. He
thought
a very
about
measured approach.
This is what you would hope, and he's been a great judge executive.
I think so. I know so.
And I think and there's a lot of people out there that believe so as well. That they were very, very pleasantly surprised at how well he's doing and how much he cares about the community, because they didn't know him before, but they took a chance on him.
Next meeting
is May 20th.
That's right, right before the election.
Right, the day before the election, and we want to see as many of you out there as we can get.
Now, Election night, we will be holding the numbers and doing that as well on election night and giving you all the information that's the information across the nation and keeping you tuned in at least for our local stuff right here at the Messenger Studios and also with the Republican Party. So join in with us and come back next week. We will have Senator Stephen Meredith on the show, and we look forward to seeing you guys next week.
Have a good night, guys.
Have a good night.